Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as I said, hello everyone, welcome. My name is Frances Sadi. I'm the Associate Director of Non-Degree Programs here at Brown University's School of Professional Studies. So in my role, I oversee the suite of mindfulness offerings, which consists of both the short courses as well as we have two teacher training certificate pathways, one in mindfulness-based stress reduction or MBSR, and then a second one in mindfulness-based cognitive therapy or MBCT. So that won't be the focus of today's talk. If you're here because you're interested in checking out the teacher training pathways, you're welcome to stay. And if we have time at the end, I can definitely answer questions for you. But we do have monthly sessions devoted to the teacher training pathways, and I can certainly direct you to sign up for one of those, as well as we have a bunch of one-on-one advising sessions that are free where you can meet one-on-one with one of our instructors in the pathways, and they can answer your questions probably a lot better than I can. So I'm going to share my screen. So bear with me 1 minute. Okay. So I'm going to run through kind of a quick overview that takes around 20 to 25 minutes or 30 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. Feel free to put your questions directly into the chat, or at the end, you can come off of mute and ask your questions live if you feel comfortable doing so. So in my presentation, I'll just touch briefly upon what is mindfulness. There are a lot of definitions out there, so I kind of can give some framework around that, as well as some of the background on the evidence behind both on the outcomes, benefits of mindfulness, but also around the mechanisms. And then I'll jump in to give an overview of our programs, including, as I mentioned, MBSR and MBCT and the key differences between those programs. We have a program called Finding Peace in a Frantic World, and then another one called Mindfulness-Based Blood Pressure Reduction, or MBBP. And I'll talk a little bit about what the differences are between all of those. Touch briefly on our teacher training pathways. We also have some workplace and custom programming that we can offer. And then I'll actually get into the details of how to enroll and when our next classes are. And we also have a number of free offerings here. We have a speaker series that I can direct you to, as well as other master classes and public resources as well. And like I said, I'll have plenty of time for questions and answers. Okay. So kind of taking a step back around like, what is mindfulness? Why does it matter? Why do we offer programs on mindfulness? So it really should come as no surprise that in our current landscape that we're living in is really not without its challenges. So stress, burnout, and exhaustion are pervasive. With one recent survey revealing that around 77% of workers experience work-related stress in the past month, with 57% reporting negative impacts such as emotional exhaustion and decreased motivation. And it's really not just that, but our ability to actually focus has declined significantly in the past few decades, with distractions abounding. According to data put up by the University of California, the average worker checks their email 74 times a day, toggles between digital screens an average of 566 times a day, and goes on social media around 21 different times throughout the day. And that's data from a study that's over 10 years old, and so the results would be even higher. Beyond stress and distraction, we're in a society that really struggles incredibly with mental and physical health. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, approximately 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness each year, with 1 in 20 experiencing serious mental illness. Globally, 27% of adults and over 80% of adolescents do not meet the World Health Organization's recommended levels of physical activity, with chronic diseases pervasive really across all developed nations. A recent MarketWatch report also noted that the U.S. has reached its lowest rank of 24th on the global happiness scale. So people are hurting, and these realities undoubtedly take a toll on us as individuals. They also impact, beyond the individual, they impact our communities and the organizations in which we work. And then more broadly, they impact and reflect the underlying culture of our national and global societies. So we as individuals and societies really can't afford not to do something about this. And mindfulness is just one of many tools. So here at Brown, we believe that mindfulness is not just a practice, but rather it is an innate skill, something that every human being is born with, that actually can be harnessed and strengthened in order to transform individuals, workplaces, and communities for good. So a bit about how it works and what it is. So as I said, there's a lot of definitions out there and there's overlap, obviously. We like to use this one. This is John Kabat-Zinn is the founder of Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, or MBSR. And John defines mindfulness as the awareness that arises when paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally, or as my colleague likes to say, with friendliness. And so paired with that, I like to share this slide. So mindfulness based programs, I won't get too much into the history of it, but really kind of back in 1979 was when MBSR was first created and got launched, and now it is taught globally. Uh, and so as mindfulness, some of these Eastern meditative practices and the concept of meditation was married with more Western medicine and science, and was kind of secularized. Really around back in the early 2000s is when the research started to take off. And back then, a group of scientists and clinical psychologists actually got together and said, you know what? Mindfulness seems to be here to stay. It's being studied. It's really important that we come up with an operational definition, or sort of standardized definition of what we mean by mindfulness, so that when we study it, we can actually compare our data. And what I love about it, and I won't read it, is that it actually maps really nicely to John's definition. And so there really is like two components to mindfulness when we say mindfulness. The first involves kind of actually training your mind to be able to pay attention to the present moment. And so you can do that kind of with a focused awareness, focusing on your breath or focusing on sounds outside of you, or the sensations in your body. But there's this concept of like, if you continue to practice it, it's just like going to the gym and strengthening your muscles and getting stronger. You can actually grow in your ability to pay attention, which obviously has implications outside of your meditations, because when you're working or you're with a loved one, you want to be able to actually be present and be able to focus. And then the other component to mindfulness involves more of your posture. And so it involves kind of shifting up your posture to one of curiosity, openness, and acceptance, in contrast to kind of like self-judgment, judgment of others, kind of more closed, fear-based. It's more of practicing with non-judgmentalness or an openness to see what arises. And so those two components are like integrated into all of our programs. And so a bit about how it might work. So this is a really well-respected theoretical framework for how mindfulness meditation actually positively impacts our ability to control our behaviors, and including being more readily equipped to direct our thoughts, sit with our feelings, direct our actions, be able to kind of operate in the ways in which we hope to or intend to do. So there's based on decades of research, there's kind of three components. The first is attention control, which I've touched upon, but it's simply that, being able to focus our attention on a task at hand for sustained periods of time. And then second is emotion regulation. And so this is not the ability to control our emotions necessarily, but it's rather being able to sit with any emotion that arises. So, as humans, we're hardwired to kind of detect potential threats, seek out rewards, but we don't always do a very good job at interpreting those emotional signals and then responding correctly. We can often be kind of reactive in a way that doesn't serve us. So by training our bodies and our minds to be able to kind of sit with discomfort, to be able to identify feelings as they rise and dissipate, but not reacting to them necessarily, we find that we can actually grow in our ability to have more conscious control of how we respond when difficult situations arise. And also a concept of being able to actually savor the good moments. So even the good feelings don't last forever. So there's something about being able to be present for things that may be enjoyable and pleasurable and align with your values, and being able to really to make that moment last for you in a way where if you're busy, it can come and go and you might not really have been aware of it. And then the last is self-awareness, which really speaks to our ability to check in with our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations as they arise, in a way that allows us to harness data to what's unfolding in the present moment and allows us to really know and understand ourselves so that we can actually be more attuned to what our needs are, so that we can more effectively and consciously respond to situations as they arise. And as I said, to be able to actually to live and act in a way that aligns with our own personal values. Okay. I love this graph. It is taken from an article that was published in 2021, and it actually maps out the research, the amount of research, peer-reviewed articles that was being conducted on mindfulness. And so, as you can see, kind of starts to really pick up around the early 2000s when that operational definition came out, and now the curve just continues to go up pretty rapidly. So this is stops at 2020. As of last fall, there was like 30,357 peer-reviewed publications of mindfulness found in PubMed, which is a common search engine for peer-reviewed research articles, and that number has gone up as well. Okay, a bit about the benefits, the known benefits. So unsurprisingly, it's been shown to have a number of health benefits across a wide range of health outcomes. So I'll go through this kind of quickly, but uh, the management of chronic and acute pain, there's been a number of studies that suggest that MBSR may actually reduce pain-related distress, pain intensity, as well as functional limitations in people with chronic pain. And there's also evidence that mindfulness not only helps reduce the pain itself, but also what experts called pain catastrophizing, which is what so when you suffer from chronic pain or even acute pain, for like more chronic pain, but when you suffer from chronic pain, there's the pain itself, but then there's like this extra layer of discomfort and agitation and more kind of emotional, psychological anxiety around it. Where, for example, if you suffer from chronic pain and you are invited by a friend to go out to a restaurant or something, that you might worry, how is my pain going to interfere with this social? Am I going to have to leave early? Am I going to be able to actually be present? Are they going to be perceiving me thinking that I'm not enjoying myself just because I'm actually struggling with pain? So there's like this extra layer. And so there's also evidence that mindfulness not only helps with the pain, but can also help with that second layer that comes with something like chronic pain, but also if you suffer from depression or anxiety. As you can imagine, there's strong evidence that MBSR reduces stress and also directly helps with exhaustion and burnout, which is our significant health concerns across among workers really across the board globally. And mindfulness also can help people with anxiety and depression, training them to be able to remain present in the present moment. So if you've ever struggled with depression or anxiety or just difficult mood states, you'll know that a lot of your time when you're in that state is spent not in the present moment. So you might be ruminating about the past or worrying about the future, about something that might happen to you that hasn't happened to you yet. So again, in mindfulness training, being able to bring you back to that present moment. And then also just being able to kind of interrupt some of those well-grooved neural pathways, thought patterns and habit loops, and kind of being able to identify with self-awareness what some of those habits are and being able to then shift intentionally in new thinking. So there's been a number of research trials, one pivotal one in 2015, and then another one more recently that actually found that MBSR was as effective as antidepressants for preventing depression from recurring. Mindfulness has also been shown to have significant improvements in sleep quality and even a reduction in blood pressure, something we'll talk about in a second, among those with uncontrolled hypertension. And then lastly, mindfulness is also renowned for its cognitive, emotional, and psychological outcomes, including being able to increase self-compassion, boosts to working memory, increased ability to focus, and improvements in your ability to regulate and control emotions. Okay, so let's get into the programs themselves that we offer here at Brown. So if you visit our website, you'll see that we offer a number of short 8-week mindfulness-based programs. All are designed really to begin the cultivation of mindfulness skills and competencies. So if you're new to mindfulness, these courses are wonderful. We also have individuals that are not new to mindfulness that have a longstanding personal like meditative practice. And they'll go through our programs multiple times because it is nuanced enough that that you'll get something different out of it each time, myself included. I first took MBSR back in 2016, and then took it again 2 years ago, and completely different experiences, and it was wonderful both times. I don't come from a background of meditation. My background is in clinical research, running different research trials. And so when I was hired back in 2015 to run a large randomized control trial looking at a mindfulness-based intervention, my boss at the time said, you know what, you should go take MBSR so you know what the study is about and what the intervention's about. And so when I took the class, I was working full time, had 3 young kids, and had some personal stuff going on. And I remember going through the program and feeling open but skeptical, and I was also aware of how exhausted I was. And so it wasn't until after the program really kind of ended, and even afterwards, that others around me were like, you seem different, and I felt different. And I realized in many ways, just that training, that 8-week program really did kind of rewire my brain in the way I was less reactive. I was still just as busy, but it really kind of felt like time slowed down in a way that priorities seemed to be kind of rise up to the top, and was able to kind of move and identify the ways in which I wanted to spend the limited energy I had. Was better able to identify and place my attention on those tasks that needed it. So that was my experience, first time with MBSR, and then again I took it in 2024. And that was an in-person class, and it was a completely different experience. It was really, really nice to be in person. Was reminded how much I love being in a community, even though we weren't necessarily spending a lot of time together and talking about our personal lives. There was something about being with fellow humans and kind of just traveling through this curriculum together and being impacted in our own ways, that I found incredibly connecting. So the courses that we offer here at Brown, there's 4 short courses, and I'm going to go into more detail about each of them in a moment. But basically, there's the MBSR class that I mentioned, MBCT, or Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy. We have a course called Finding Peace in a Frantic World, and then we have Mindfulness-Based Blood Pressure Reduction. And I'll talk about each of them individually. One thing I love to point out is that here at Brown, we are because we partner with the Mindfulness Center, which is based in our School of our School of Public Health. And that is a world premier research center, global research center on mindfulness. We partner with them, and actually their director is our academic director, because we want to make sure that we are on top of the latest evidence on mindfulness, that we're being informed by the evidence in the way we deliver and design our programs. If you do any sort of search on mindfulness, you'll see there's a lot out there, and the quality, there's a whole range. There's a lot of other wonderful groups out there offering MBSR and other programs as well. So not to say we're the only ones, but I can attest to the quality of the programs, and we see that in our program evaluations time and time again. Yeah, so mostly online. Occasionally we offer in-person programs, and let's get into the details. So MBSR is mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's really considered the gold standard of mindfulness-based programs. It was kind of the first secular mindfulness-based program, started back in 1979 by John Kabat-Zinn at UMass Medical Center in Worcester. So John was a microbiologist, trained at MIT. He was working at the UMass Medical Center, and he was around a lot of clinicians. And in conversations with him, he would be like, how many of your patients do you think you're actually helping? And it was interesting because he said, I think he said only around 10% of patients they felt like they were able to help. A big number of them get better on their own. Sorry, I think it's 80%. that could help 10% get better on their own, 10% really, there's only so much modern medicine can do, they would say, and that for a subset of their patients, there really wasn't anything that they felt like they could do. And it was really around these patients that were struggling with chronic pain in particular. And so John, in hearing that, decided to design this mindfulness-based program based on his own meditative practice and what he knew of it, and also with his clinical training. And so he designed this program. It obviously took off. It had a large impact, and then began to spread globally. And it is the most researched of all of the evidence-based mindfulness programming. It's been researched for about 5 decades now, and the research on it is quite robust. So MBSR, 8-week program, it's really designed to teach you both formal and informal mindfulness practices. So when I say formal, I'm thinking like more traditional, like guided meditations. So sitting meditation, focused awareness, the body scan. There's this technique where you actually can lay down or even sitting, kind of systematically go through and feel into the different parts of your body. And so again, think like going to the gym and training your muscles. It's like very similar type of approach, but just different angles. But then there's also a lot of informal practices. So a lot of the class, you'll be asked to like take a mindful walk, or eat a meal mindfully. For a lot of people, with disordered eating, or even just like in the rush of your day, might consume food in a way that you're not even really aware of, and not in tune with your body if you're hungry or not, or if you're eating because of anxiety or whatever. So there's a lot of really practical practices that are really informally weaved into the things that you do about your normal day anyways. You just bring your mindfulness training to those activities. Yeah, and other thing I like to point out, the classes usually have around 20 to 30, sometimes a little bit more. And it's not group therapy. People show up, and the shared experience is the fact that everyone is there to learn about mindfulness. And so in the breakout sessions and the dialogue, it's really more about your experience interacting with that training. And you're not expected to share anything personal. But there is, like I said, in my experience with the in-person class, there is something really powerful about engaging in a collective group together, walking through that experience together. All right. Here are upcoming. So the fall classes are about to end, and then we have a small break. And so the next round of classes will pick back up in the new year. So with all of our MBSR, MBCT, and MBBP, they all follow the same structure. So you have an orientation session, followed by 8 weekly classes. You come to class once per week for 2.5 hours at a time. So it is a chunk of time, which is very intentional. So the length of the class, a lot of that really is spent learning and practicing mindfulness. And it's really thoughtful. You don't just jump into sitting for like a 45-minute meditation. They kind of ease into it. I, I can attest to, I've tried downloading apps and learning mindfulness on my own, and for some individuals that works. Personally, I'm an individual that much prefers scheduling. If I paid for something, if I scheduled it, I'm all in. I'm going to fully commit. So for me, being able to even just show up that once a week and to be able to practice that alone, really had a profound impact. And there's home practice that you're asked to engage with each day, in between the sessions. But even that aside, the evidence shows that if you just show up for the 2.5 hours at a time, that alone can have an impact. And I experienced that. We try to offer a variety of times of day. So for MBSR in the winter, we have 5 different sessions. And we are offering the next in-person MBSR class is actually going to be a spring offering. that will start up on March 30th as the orientation session, and we'll be here in Providence, Brown University at our School of Professional Studies. And you'll see more details online for all of that. Both our winter and our spring classes are currently posted right now. Okay, so I'm going to go through these other ones a little bit more quickly because they're all adaptation of MBSR. I also just want to see. Okay. So, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, or MBCT, is an evidence-based and experiential program that combines training in mindfulness meditation with principles from cognitive therapy. And so, MBCT was really initially designed to help participants break free from patterns that contribute to repeated and prolonged episodes of depression. So that was the initial kind of target audience, but it also it has broadened and been shown to be successful with individuals who struggle with anxiety as well as other difficult mood states. And so, the core curriculum for both programs is very similar. Like I said, there's an orientation, and then there's the 8 weekly sessions that are 2.5 hours each. But I will say that MBCT takes those meditative practices and skills that you're learning, and it spends more time applying them specifically to the thoughts and the habit loops and thoughts and behaviors and emotions that seem to contribute to repeated states of depression, anxiety, or difficult mood states. So it kind of like spotlights the techniques on that in particular. Whereas MBSR can also, the evidence shows that it also has an impact on anxiety and depression, but its approach is like much more kind of a floodlight rather than a spotlight, where it takes those techniques and it just applies it more broadly. So if you struggle with more like physical pain or chronic conditions, then maybe MBSR might be a better fit. But if you specifically want to work on like your feeling landscape or those habit loops that I was talking about, MBCT might be a better fit. So MBCT was designed by Mark Williams, Zindel Siegel, and John Teasdale out of the University Oxford Mindfulness Center in the UK, and it too is now taught all over the world. It just had its 30-year anniversary. So our director of the MBCT program was invited to attend that, and yeah, there's just a lot of research behind it. It's wonderful. Here are the classes for winter and spring dates for MBCT. You'll see that we offer typically two different sections every season. And so we have one that's being held on Tuesday mornings, 9 to 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then another one on Wednesday evenings. And you see the dates there. Again, orientation, and then the 8 weekly sessions. I will say also, I should have said this earlier, for both MBSR and MBCT, there's the 8 weeks, but there's also an all-day session that's typically held. You'll have the option of attending on a Saturday or a Sunday. The dates are online. And the all-day session usually is right after week 5 of the program. And so that all-day session, it's really kind of nice. It's by that time you've been introduced to like all the different techniques. And so it's kind of an opportunity for an extended day of practice in a global community. So all of the MBSR classes and the MBCT classes actually all join online together and walk through that all-day session together. So if you've never had an opportunity, it's a silent retreat. If you've never done a whole day in silence, it's really, that people say it's quite revolutionary, actually. I will put this in the chat. If you're wondering the differences between the two programs, that's kind of one of our most common questions. One of our teachers actually wrote a blog article on the differences of MBCT and MBSR, and so I definitely recommend checking that out. MBSR versus MBCT. I'm gonna go like this. I think someone also asked me this. So this is being recorded, and we'll share the recording. We'll put it up on our YouTube playlist so that if you miss any of this, or you don't have to worry about taking all the notes down, you can go back and revisit the dates and stuff. Okay. Lastly, or not lastly, second to last, there's a short 8-week program called Finding Peace in a Frantic World. And so this is an abridged adaptation of MBCT. So rather than meeting for 2.5 hours every week, Finding Peace is really designed, it only meets for 1 hour per week. There's no orientation, there's no all day. So it's really designed to be a more accessible and practical program for beginners and for anyone with a busy lives and limited time. So it's kind of like a taster of some of these mindfulness practices. And it was also developed by Mark Williams and Danny Penman at the University Oxford Center. It's based on their best-selling book, Mindfulness: A Practical Guide to Finding Peace in a Frantic World. Here's the dates for that class. It's coming up later in January is when it starts. And again, it's only 8 weeks. Okay, last of the programs is called Mindfulness-Based Blood Pressure Reduction, or MBBP. This one is near and dear to my heart. This is one of the programs that I studied. There was a 5-year National Institute of Health multi-stage trial that we ran on MBBP. It included a randomized control trial with over 200 individuals signed up, and the evidence behind this program was quite strong. So this program, again, an adaptation of MBSR, it takes those same techniques, same structure, orientation in the 8 weeks. It takes the techniques and it applies the techniques specifically to cardiovascular risk factors for high blood pressure or cardiovascular disease. And so that could be stress, poor diet, high salt intake, smoking, alcohol consumption, poor medication adherence. So if you're someone who struggles with taking your blood pressure medications every day, whatever it is for you. So you early on in the program, you're invited to kind of just check in with yourself, figure out, okay, what might be contributing, and in consultation with your doctor, what is contributing to my poor heart health or putting me at risk for a heart condition or high elevated blood pressure. And then throughout the course, you then work on that risk factor using the taking a mindfulness approach to your relationship with that behavior. And so the evidence, it was clinically tested. It showed clinically significant drops in systolic blood pressure among individuals with uncontrolled hypertension, went down, I believe, 8 millimeters mercury. And then also improvements in diet, sedentary behavior, increases in mindfulness scores, and self-awareness. And here is the upcoming program. It's going to be taught in Wednesday evenings, and the program designer, Dr. Eric Laux, is actually going to be the one teaching the class. And I don't know how many times more he's going to teach it, because I think he's in the process of building out the teacher training pathway. So that's why he's teaching it. So it's kind of a rare opportunity to actually learn from the founder of the program. So definitely, if you have any interest or you know of someone who struggles with high blood pressure, highly recommend signing them up. Okay, it won't be the focus for today, but we do have 2 teacher training pathways, one in mindfulness-based stress reduction and one in MBCT. I'm happy to point you to the monthly info sessions on those, as well as how to sign up for a one-on-one session with one of the instructors, so that you can get your questions answered. And if we have time today, I'm also happy to address a few of those questions. We also do a number of custom programs for organizations and workplaces. So if you work at a place that might benefit from mindfulness training, and there's a form online you can fill out, and we'd be happy to meet with you to talk more. Okay. I'm also going to put this link. This is for our events page, where you can find the latest events that we offer here. Including, let me see if it's here. Yep. So we have a mindfulness speaker series called Evolution of Mindfulness. And so we brought in leaders in the mindfulness field, we kicked the series off with John Kabat-Zinn came and talked, but a number of pivotal leaders in the field came and was a part of the series. And we have on our YouTube channel, you can check out the talks that have happened already, but basically we dialogue around the research that they've done or the programs that they have developed. And we also now are getting into kind of more innovative new leaders in the field and talking about what direction they're headed with their mindfulness research. And so related to that, we have a talk coming up in December with a mindfulness researcher. She's a neuroscientist. Her name's Mishi Jha down in University of Miami. And she's done a lot of work with military service members, firefighters, and other kind of high stakes professionals, first responders. And so she's going to talk about how to stay present when it matters most. So her work on mindfulness attention as well as human resilience. And so for that talk in particular is right here. And hopefully these links are working as I post them. All right, we're almost done. Oh, we are done. Okay. So thank you to everyone who stayed on through that whole talk. We're going to open it up to questions, but I'm also going to put my email in the link here. If you want to email me directly, I'm going to end my stop sharing. And I saw that we have a number of comments, chats. So great. So I'm going to be reading through some of those and I can pull questions. But if anyone feels comfortable and just wants to come off of mute, feel free to raise your hand or ask your question live. Otherwise, you can also submit your questions in the chat. I'm going to get a drink of water. All right. I see someone asked for me to share the literature information. Yeah, I can pull some of the source references and put it into the chat, or I can send it by email. We won't have access to the slides, but like I said, the talk was recorded, so you can go back and definitely revisit it on the YouTube link that will be in, like, I think it's scheduled to go out in like between 24 to 72 hours. You'll get an email post-event with the link to the recording. All right. All right, I think that's some of you were wondering if it was pre-recorded. Nope, live here. Okay. Deadline to register for winter sessions. Yes. So most of the winter sessions, we go on break. Winter break. So ideally, like if you could register by the end of the calendar year, it's really helpful for us, the teachers, to be able to like prepare and be able to reach out and give you the details for the classes. But I think we're going to keep the registration will stay open until like the January 3rd or something. So I will say our MBSR classes historically always fill up and then they get a wait list that's quite long. And people usually don't drop. So even if you're on the wait list, it's unlikely that you'll get in. So if you're thinking about taking MBSR, I highly, highly recommend signing up sooner rather than later. All right, Darlene, thanks for the offering. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask live? We can also end a little bit early, which is fine.
Hello, Francis.
Hi, Paul.
Thank you. That was very informative.
Yeah.
Is the 8-week program, when you have 2.5 hours, will we go into any of the research or is it all practice?
Yeah, great question. There is time devoted to talking about a bit about the research, but also more time is spent actually talking about the neuroscience and like how does our body and how our brains, how does it work, and why does that make understanding that can really make an impact on your understanding and being able to kind of buy into some of these techniques. I mean, personally, that made a big difference for me to kind of have that framework to be able to then in practicing and sitting and doing focused awareness or body scans and understanding like, okay, why does it matter that I start to understand how my feelings are manifesting physically? It builds self-awareness. It allows me to like not feel as threatened by certain like uncomfortable feelings, knowing that it's going to dissipate. So like to that extent, it's not going to be like an academic theoretical class by no means. Everything that they do share when it comes to the science and the neuroscience, it's all with the intention of it being helpful and being applied. So hopefully, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
I have
What else?
a question about I saw that you have the online and the in-person classes. If I wasn't sure, like if you could, I would rather do the in-person, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to attend the first
Yeah.
one of the, so are they the same session or are those two different totally sessions?
Yeah, great question. So, um, 2 points about that. One is, when it comes to taking the class, they in looking at the schedule and then seeing if it works for you, we do ask that you try to attend at least 6 out of the 8 weekly sessions to get the most out of it. So we understand, like, life happens, you miss a class, you get sick or whatever, you're traveling. If you know ahead of time that there's a conflict one of the sessions, the nice thing about having multiple sessions running concurrently is that if you let your teacher know, they'll actually give you the schedules for the other classes. And if it works to join a different class that week, that way you don't feel like you actually miss the live information. So that's always an option. And then there was another point related to that that I has escaped my mind, but it'll come back to me, I'm sure.
That
Uh,
answers my question though.
okay,
Thank you
good,
very
good.
much.
Yeah, for confidentiality reasons, we don't record the classes. So it's not like we can share the missed session with you. But the instructors also are happy to meet one-on-one if you end up missing something and you have questions about things. They're very like accessible and lovely people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question if you offered CEUs.
Yeah. CEUs, tricky concept. So we at Brown are not an accrediting body. With mindfulness in particular, it's been a little bit tricky to unravel because there's so many different accrediting bodies or like practices through which you could get a CEU, and the requirements are all a little bit different. So instead, what we're able to do is we are happy to work with individuals to be able to provide documentation on the course syllabus with the objectives, the number of contact hours and like that goes into the calculating of CEUs, as well as we can even do like Zoom reports to show. I know in some requirements they want to see did the person actually attend the full session. So we can also provide evidence of that. And that has worked for we've had individuals be able to use that successfully to get CEUs. It's a little bit of a jumping through hoops, but yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm. Mm. I see there is a question about teacher training, and I'm happy to stay on to talk about that, but I want to make space if there's any other questions about our short offerings first. And one thing I always like to share because it's the feedback we've gotten is that it's not always obvious. So if it would be helpful, I actually will walk you through. Now let's see if I can find it. Our website. So if you go to the School of Professional Studies, this is what it looks like. And mindfulness is located under academics, mindfulness education. And so the way they have it structured is you have the 4 short courses that I just presented on, but we also have our teacher training. So the MBSR teacher training, you can find on the left side more information about each of those certificate pathways. Um, and then the MBCT, we also have the first step in the pathways to become a mindfulness facilitator. If you aren't interested in teaching MBSR or teaching MBCT specifically, but want to just offer like more general mindfulness programming, intro to mindfulness or guided meditations, or maybe you're a social worker or a clinician, you want to bring mindfulness techniques in with your individual work, in one-on-one with individuals, then that training is a great first step. So then on this website, we also have there's the link to the custom workplace programs, more about our speaker series. We offer free every Monday at noon. We've got a meditation community that meets for just a 30-minute sit from 12 to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. So that's also a nice way just to get a taste of what these meditative practices are about and also to be a part of an online community. And then our teachers put out different mindfulness articles and stuff, so you can see information on that. And then the other thing I like to show is that related to the courses, when you go onto the page, you'll see that we don't have any of the schedules on our actual websites. Instead, you'll find them if you click this big red register button. I promise you, you're not going to like get signed up. It actually just brings you to our registration page, and that's where you can find the schedule. So like, for example, this blood pressure course is going to take place on Wednesday evenings from this date, from January 7th to March 11th. So that's where you can actually sign up and pay. Yeah, Amy.
Yeah, thanks. So you just actually spoke to kind of what my interest was, but I missed. I'm a LICSW
Yes.
and interested. Just did some yoga training and interested in doing the mindfulness and meditation with their patients and clients. Would it be the mindfulness-based cognitive therapy? Is that what you recommended?
Well,
Or which
yeah.
one did you suggest starting?
Yeah, I mean, really either one. It depending on your clients and the things that they tend to struggle with, MBCT might be the best one. And so within MBCT, if you were to take the classes yourself to kind of get that foundational training, the next step would be this foundations and facilitator training. It's a 10-week course that comes after the 8-week course, and that you would actually get a credential as a mindfulness facilitator trained at Brown, and then you could from that you would have enough training to be able to like offer brief practices with your patients and do stuff like that. So that might be a good fit.
So do either, so maybe do the MBCT course and then this foundation and facilitator? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, of course. And as I mentioned, if anyone's interested in any of the teacher training, including the facilitator training, and you haven't already done so, check out our monthly info sessions around those topics, because those sessions are run by the teachers. They'll be able to actually like give you very detailed information about the requirements within the pathway, and then also can if you meet one-on-one with them, they'll even like you can tell them about yourself, what your credentials are, and then like they can help see this, because for some of them there's prerequisite requirements and stuff, and so they can walk you through like what you might need to get started with that too. And so the on the website you'll see you can sign up to meet one-on-one with the teachers.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And happy to let you all go if there's no more questions. But as I said, I put my email there. So thank you for joining. And I'll stick on a little bit longer. If anyone wants to ask questions about teacher training, I'm happy to spend some time with that. Bye. Yeah.
Thanks, bye.
Oop, she left. Yeah. And see if Darlene is still on. No, I think she left. Okay. Paul, did you have any more questions?
Can I ask a quick question about the teacher? So when you say teacher, that's teaching the course I'm taking.
Yes.
The facilitator, as a coach and as a trainer, would teach me to be able to use this with my own clients.
Yes. So
And
I
then,
know that's,
okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, no. When I'm saying teacher training, the facilitator training is like the first step in the pathway. So if you were to go through that, you're exactly right. You would, with that training, be able to get a foundational enough training, build a foundation to be able to actually be skilled and practiced with leading individuals, leading clients through guided practices themselves. They also teach you how and allow you space to practice what it takes to kind of like offer an introduction to mindfulness. So say you did a group-based therapy or whatever, and you wanted to be able to present to your group more information about what mindfulness is and then practice it with them, that would also be something that you could do as well. That tends to be more even like in our workplace trainings. People want to like bring that to the workplace.
And then may I just ask one quick
Yeah.
question? Do you,
Got me till 5.
I went on the website, and to get to the facilitator training, and I assume the teacher training, you need to do like 3-day or 5-day silent. I've never done any of that. I've meditated for years. I've never done that. Do you offer those courses?
We don't offer the retreats here at Brown, but I will. There is on our website, and I can share the link. There is, and maybe you already found it, but we have a page of resources, which includes talking about the qualified retreats. And then it shares organizations that we know would meet the requirements that we even have teachers that teach there, and they are
I think I did see that, but
yeah.
should I still check with you? Because it seemed like what was said, and then sometimes I went to the website and I wasn't sure if it was the same place.
Yeah.
So is that just something to make sure we check that it's authorized by you before we take it?
Yeah, and so actually, if you even, so yeah, that's the website that I'm talking about. But if you ever wanted to know, you could either set up that one-on-one meeting with a teacher and say, hey, these are the retreats I'm thinking about. Would that be okay? Or you can email them and say, this is what I'm looking at, and they can tell you even before you commit. This is the best email for the full team. They can let you know if something's going to count or not. We also recognize that like some of the retreats aren't offered very regularly. So if that's holding you up from enrolling in a course, definitely reach out, because we've had individuals that like, okay, they haven't taken the 3-day retreat yet, but they're scheduled. They already know when they're going to do it. And it's after the course starts, and they'll be like, they'll just waive that and count that. As long as you are on the pathway to kind of having that experience, that will meet the requirement.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Mhm. All right. Well, I can let everyone else go. It's been lovely to spend an hour with you. And as I said, I hope to see you in the classes, but reach out if you ever have any questions, and definitely check out our free resources and events. They've been a lot of fun to put on, and the feedback has been positive. So until then, take care, everyone. Be well, be safe.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.